To do animation in After Effects is really simple. It's just a matter of finding the attribute that we want to change, and all we have to do is to change the timeline and then change the action or apply some changes into the attributes that we want to influence. So for instance, if I want to have this to fade in, I would go into the opacity. I can just click on the text and hit T, the shortcut for opacity, and I can go and click on that time watch. If I click again, it's going to erase everything, so make sure you only click once unless you want to reset your animation. Once you create a key, you will see this blue key here, or blue button, and now I can turn this down, so now the key here that is being recorded has 0 opacity. So if I click Ctrl Shift and right arrow, I would jump 10 frames and then maybe 20 frames, and then I would go, and if I click on this button here, that's going to make another key with the existing value. So that's going to ensure that these 20 frames have 0 opacity. And now from here I can jump 10 frames and give this an opacity of 100, and any change I make, it would automatically create a key right here. So technically now I have this kind of animation. And let's say for instance I want to keep it until here, so I can do it in two ways. I can either like drop this down just a tiny bit and then all the way up, so it recorded some changes, which is pretty much the same. Or if you find it easier, you can just click here on this key and then go 10 frames forward, and then drop it down to 0%. So now my animation would be, let's say I like this animation but I want to make it kind of slower. Let me zoom out a little bit on the timeline, and then now that I have selected all of these animation keys of the opacity, I can if I move them all with the left mouse button, it would just move just pretty much everything, and they would maintain their distances. But if I want to make this to be slower, I want to more like kind of like stretch them out. How do I do that? I click and hold Alt, and then I drag. Again, click and hold Alt, and then click with the left mouse button and drag. And now that's going to maintain that spacing between them. In the meantime, it's going to play that kind of smooth, subtle fade in and fade out. So that's how animation works. Let's talk about, maybe let me go here and erase all of these. But before I do so, you see those two arrows? So if I click on this arrow here, it's gonna send me to the next keyframe. So that's very helpful. I can go and check this and just make sure this is like 100% opacity. If I want to change the position of this text, hit P, record, and then move forward like this much here. And if I click the shift, it's going to kind of keep it on either the horizontal line or the vertical line. So right now my animation is this. Let me hit the N on the keyboard, so it would only like process this time here, this kind of area of the timeline. Anything you see in dotted green means that it's still being processed, and anything you see as solid green here, that means it is processed in the RAMs and it's going to be playing smoothly. So if you see any sort of lagging or with weird things, just make sure you give it some time until After Effects just goes over it once or twice. So I don't like this animation because it's really like even, and I want to make it with more like ease in and ease out. How do I modify those animations in a kind of a way that I have control over those keys? If you click on this button, you select the curve or the kind of the point that you want to modify. Let's say I want to just select this one, and then I can go and select there's this button here of like you can ease. So this one is going to be easing out, so that's going to be the one that I need to click here. Now when I play the animation, you can see it sort of starts with an ease, and if I select this one and go and like ease out, you will see this more more noticeable.